Hello everybody. I'm glad to meet you. I hope that you already have completed your work if your working day was before our webinar. If you are in US and your day is only starting, then I hope that you have this hour to sit with us and listen to what we would like to share with you. So what we are going to talk about and who we are. Our topic today is 5 major issues of managing software development partners. Actually, we are going to talk not only about development groups or development partners who work like your contractors or outsourcing companies. We are going to talk about developers or development groups that you work with, and they can be either a part of your company or they can be an external company. It doesn't matter right now. The main question is that they are usually work not inside your office, so it's not only your internal team, but mainly it's your partner or it's your company but located somewhere else. So who we are. My name is Anastasia Novikova and I represent company NextGen Design. We are actually working in the field of outsourcing, and basically I try to avoid this word, but all in all on this market we are providing services for customers who would like to find a matching provider for them. So basically we try to fill the gap between customers who are looking for the most relevant provider that matches them not only by technologies but also by some personal skills or mindset or whatever else. And development groups, mainly we work with small and medium size of them. And that is why this topic of the webinar appeared. I'm not only going to talk about our only experience. We are going to talk about the issues that usually we can face if we work with small and medium sized providers. We were asked today if I have sort of certification in project management or something else. I think that right now I'm talking to you from the position of a company manager. I'm managing projects internally here as well, and I don't have any project management certificates if they matter right now. So mainly I will talk about life experience. I don't plan to give you a silver bullet today, so actually it's not even possible for all the issues that we are going to discuss today, but my main goal is to share how do we overcome some of these issues or try to minimize them. So it's not only possible to overcome all of this. However, we try to minimize the risk that any of this issue appears in our practice. So that is what I'm going to talk about today. If you have any questions to me, you can share them in comments to our live video. I will provide some time answering questions in the end of the webinar. So let's go. Actually, we've tried to choose among issues that we usually face, and we have 5 of them that we are going to discuss today. You already know them from our newsletters, from the landing page. So I will just briefly remind you what we are going to talk about today. So first of all, we are going to talk about missed deadlines. According to my conversations with all of our customers, and after our offline event that was dedicated to a similar topic in Berlin, we've actually understood that missed deadline issue appears everywhere, no matter if your developers are inside of your team in-house, if it's your partner. So actually one day this issue will come to you, and that is very bad statistics, of course, and I can tell you exactly how many companies face them. But as to our customers, at least once in one project in their life, they face this issue according to their own experience. We're going to talk about changing estimates. So if you are working on some task, or if you provided some task, no matter if estimate is for you only time or time and money, the estimate can change after actually it was provided. So we are going to talk about it today as well. We will talk about project readiness. So actually when the project is really done, and how we can determine this term to our team, to our developers, how we can share and make it common. Also, we are going to think of understanding of tasks. Unfortunately, that is quite a thing that we think is cannot happen. So if we are working on a project, we understand it clearly, but unfortunately it also happens quite often. So understanding of requirements and task understanding is very important as well. And also we are going to talk about upselling, so when it happens to us, so not we are doing this, so we are on customer side today. So what if our development partner and developers are trying to upsell us something? If it's our internal group or partner where we have estimates like in time, we're going to talk about changing features. So like if you want to have a feature and your team offers you like rebuilding it fully instead of refactoring or whatever else that will take more time, it might be more interesting for them, but not always it's more interesting or not beneficial for you. So that is our brief plan. I hope that we will meet our time frame and we will finish in time, especially with questions. So a few more words about my background. So actually we try to collect some statistics. Of course, unfortunately I can't check how many projects were completed when I was working from the beginning of my career actually. So I started working in IT sphere in 2007. All this time I worked with startups and outsourcing companies here in Ukraine, but these companies were always working on international markets. So we've sold to customers from United Kingdom, USA, Canada, Australia, all over Europe, sometimes South Africa and other countries. So right now, as I told you, we are working in next-gen design to help customers to find the best match among providers, and we are actually working as account managers on projects and sometimes partly project managers. So we are partly involved into the process where customer and the team tries to get the project done. So let's go directly to our issues. So the first and the most common issue that we usually face, that is about missed deadlines. So most probably you understand that every project has its own deadline overall. We might have milestones with setup deadlines. We might have another plans according to these deadlines. So you may plan marketing campaigns, you may plan whatever else, and any of your activities. And the project might be created or finished in time, so you can like finish your plans and everything might work smoothly. But unfortunately, situations happen that deadlines are not actually met. I would like to ask you to write down in comments. I have my live chat here in front of me. So are there anybody among our visitors and listeners who didn't meet this issue, who always works on time and who knows developers who work only on time? Please just use our live chat down this video so I know if somebody like this is among our audience, please. So if there are anybody who didn't meet this issue, please comment here. Let me tell you a bit more about this issue while you're working on comments, I hope. So basically, first time when we had a project that didn't complete or didn't actually ship in time was related to the marketing campaign our customer had. And actually it was quite painful thing, since our customer, he thought that everything will be done and he didn't control us at all, or basically he thought that we are experts and we will do everything on time. Unfortunately, the issue that influenced our deadline missing was not related to our internal process or internal project management or whatever. So it was mainly related to the platform update that appeared not that long before the deadline, and that actually got us additional task to do. So we had to make the project compatible with the latest version of the platform we are working with. And unfortunately, that was the case where, of course, we took this risk and we completed this extra task, but there was quite a hard thing to explain to the customer that this issue appeared not only because of us, but mainly because of their update that were not really announced before that. So actually, what we can do here in case of situation of missed deadline happens really often. We have like a few things that usually help us to minimize the risk of missed deadlines. Unfortunately, we don't have, again, the case where it won't happen at all. So it is a risk all the time in any project. However, here are the things that we usually work on before the start. So we try to start with small assignments with the team, especially if it's a new one, especially if we don't know them, if they don't know us, and if we both don't know how to work on the next project. When we work with new projects from scratch, so when we are just starting from the architecture or planning or whatever, that is more easy. From time to time we take projects where we take the ready-made code and make some enhancements or work on additional features. In this case, there are more risks in this situation. So usually these first small assignments allow us to understand how tricky it will be for us to work on the code. So that is quite a well-known practice to start with small project with new team. Of course, new teams are not really big fans of starting on small projects. Of course, they want to start with large budgets, with large customers and so on. However, I usually tell them that after small assignment might come something larger. The question is how good you will be at this small task. Actually, if you are a customer and you are working with a development team, one thing that you should check, and actually it's like recommendation, you should ask for the project plan, or actually you can ask for an access to the time tracking and task tracking system that your team is using. I don't mean that the team might not have it. It means that you should ask for it. You know, sometimes when you work with projects and when development team work on projects, they might have issues that we have when we are students. So we can plan that we need to finish some task like by 21st of December. However, we have some more interesting or more exciting tasks before that. And we just think that this task can be completed like in 2 hours, and we'll leave it for 20th of December, so to the last day. And of course, when we plan it this way, sometimes shit can happen, and actually the task may take longer time, and usually it happens like this. So it takes longer, or there are some problems with it we didn't see before. So the plan to complete the task in the last minute or in the last day may be wrong and come to the missed deadline. But higher chances to miss deadline is when we don't plan our activities at all. So if you just check and ask for the plan, it's just for your information to know how the team plans to work on the project. Even if you are not a technical person, it's every time it's anyway good to check how is the project planned and what is actually the plan, what will goes first. According to this plan, you can also specify some demonstrations of project parts that will be completed before the end deadline of the project. Of course, demonstrations and demos are taken from agile practices of project management and working on projects in agile way. However, they are usually used even if we work on fixed time projects, so feel free to agree on demonstrations with your team just to make it more easy for them to show what they have done and more easy to you to understand what actually changed. So when we are showing it live on the screen, it's always better than just checking the link, clicking by yourself and looking for what was done. Actually, what I also suggest to you is to have a plan for the situation when the deadline is missed. So it's just like normal risk management. So you have to know what will you do if the situation happens at all. So do you have a backup plan? Do you have somebody who can work on the project and fix something if something is wrong in the last minute? Do you have any other plans that are related to this project completion and you need to move them or postpone them? And if you can do that, actually. Sometimes our customers set for us another deadline, so like they have a marketing campaign for the 1st January and we have a deadline like for 21st of December, so that even if we miss the deadline, then we will have more time before the actual deadline. It can also be an option for you, especially if you work with a team for the first time. However, it doesn't always mean that the project can be like missed for a week or for any specific period of time, and it depends on your project complexity and the project length, of course. And one more thing that I would like you to remember, no matter if you are a team or a customer, we are working in IT world. It's changing quite often and quite quickly, and any circumstances can change. So your main goal is to think, why did the deadline was missed first, before trying to blame somebody who was involved into this project. So first of all, think that of course some platform changes may happen. Of course some issues may be on the team's side. Of course somebody could be ill or whatever else. You could also not provide all the information or didn't provide something in time. So there are 3 sides from where the risk can come to your project. So just remember that we are in this IT world where there is not only you and your team, and something may change from the third side. Another issue that we are facing from time to time is related to estimate changes. Please again tell me in the live chat if you had a situation when you thought that the project actually will take like 1 week, and after the start, like in 2 days, your team comes to you and say that the project will take 2 weeks, and that is at least the minimum estimate, and still there is a chance that it will change again. We actually faced this issue with quite a large project before, and unfortunately this issue is very risky, especially if you have a project related to research and development or some level of uncertainty when you don't really know how to complete specific feature. So it's not just a business website with simple design, or it's not an e-commerce project based on Magento or whatever. So for this type of projects where research is involved, or we are working with something ready-made with some custom code that is not known by developers and they need still to research it, there is this risk. And actually your team can come to you anytime with this comment and with this question that the estimate should be changed. In this situation, the main problem is not only for you but for the team as well. So they understand that the project will be not profitable for them, or actually they are not interested in the project when it goes larger like twice, but they have budget only for the first part of it. So of course in this time when the estimate changes, the team will come to you and ask for more money as well. And the situation is not nice both for you and for the team. You will need to think of adding additional money to the project and team thinks that they won't be interested in completing it within the previous budget. Sometimes it happens when you push the team to give you a discount or negotiate the price a lot. Sometimes it happens when team wants to get you as a customer and start project and give you a discount even if you are not asking. So first of all, I suggest you to just be careful with situations when you are trying to get better price, better time frame for project delivery. I didn't say that you shouldn't ask for a discount or for better options, but sometimes it can come to the situation like this. So before the start, we usually try to ask our provider or ask the team about the risks. How do they see them? So actually, in this type of projects where estimates may change and where estimates change in our practice, most probably or most usually our teams were they knew about the risks, and actually they warned customers before the start. So this risk may happen, and actually the project may take longer. Of course, we understood that our customers had deadlines, other project activities, and so on, and sometimes we agreed to work and to complete the project to a specific deadline. However, some of these risks were with quite high percentage, and they actually happened. Before you start working with another team or with your part of the team, check your agreement with them. It doesn't always mean a paper, a contract. It can be your word agreement, like how do you handle these situations. If you're going to talk about your subcontractors with a contract and agreement that they have signed or you are signing with them before the start, sometimes we put an item describing the situation that something changes in the project. And actually, not only you as a customer can make changes or provide additional features, but something else can change. So we can understand that some feature is not really working that we thought was already developed, and so on. So if you have an agreement and if you have a contract, no matter, you should define how should you behave in this situation. Our teams usually divide the risk if such situation happens with a customer. So they don't charge like 100% of all the additional estimate that they find out. They usually divide this estimate and cover partly from their own costs. So they understand that partly this risk was missed not only because of them, but also they were involved in this situation. If you have an agreement with your internal team, then think if such situation happens, how will they work? Will they work after their working hours for some time just to complete the project in time, or just to help you with this completion even this risk is real? Think of your requirements before starting the project. So I will ask about this later on today again and again, but the form of your requirements, so the way you provide them to the team, it is very important, and actually make sure that they are really clear and team says that they are really clear. So sometimes this risk of additional estimation happens, especially when some part of the project was described not clear or just briefly, and team understands or you understand that you would like to see it in more details, or you want to add something else to this part. When we were in Berlin having this kind of event, we had a discussion with our audience about the prototypes actually. So our attendees asked what is the best way or what is the better way to share requirements with the team. And when we were working about web development or mobile development, we found out that one of the best ways to share requirements are prototypes. Clickable prototypes with comments for each screen, no matter if this screen have designs or just wireframes. It's usually one of the best way, the most interactive and best way for developers as well to understand what you would like to have. So actually, with this prototype, you can also show how you want the application to work, and especially you will work on this before you actually hire a development group, so you have a better understanding for yourself as well. So when we are working on this type of project, sometimes we offer our customers to create this prototype before the project starts. But if you're working on requirements right now, just consider this as an option. And one last thing to check. So again, as I told you, this issue usually happens when we work on projects where we are researching something, or we are working with ready-made code, or with something that was done not with our developers, so we are uncertain and we are not sure what is inside, or we are researching new platform or something else. So just make sure that before you start these type of projects, you understand that if that is a research, that is always a chance that it will take longer, just because it's some kind of work that is really hard to predict how long it will take. Of course, you may say that if you're a professional, if you're a researcher, you may be able to provide a preliminary estimate. Yes, that's right, but just make sure that if you have this kind of task, that this risk of happening of additional estimation is quite high in this case. What usually happens here, as I told you before, it's like a contract or agreement. How do you handle this situation if it happens? So usually we agree that we share risks, and if the situation happens, we share costs or time, or try to accomplish the task within the initial budget if it's really possible. If not, then we or stop it or renegotiate what we can do and how long it will take. Another question was shared with me by one of our customers from Europe. He actually was working with several development groups, and quite often he came to the situation when the developers came to them with a project that, on their words, was ready. But to be honest, the project was not really ready in terms of the customer. So here is a question like, how do you understand that the project is ready? Yeah, feel free to share your thoughts in comments as well. But when you are working with a project, no matter if it's a website or a mobile app, what are the first things you are checking on it? Is it the front end? Is it the code? And if you're a technical person, of course, you are going to check the code, maybe one of the first things, and how well it is commented, how well it is structured. Do you check something else? And if you take a look at this picture, different people think that different tasks and projects are ready at different stages. So sometimes we can say that it's ready, but we have a few issues still at the website, and that is still fine. But if you are a person who is looking for something perfect, you won't accept any issue in the front end, in the back end, or wherever else. So, and especially if you are a different kind of people working together, so this issue may be very hard for you to overcome. So let's see what's here. Okay, so basically, if we are going to talk about the ready project, most usually or most often we have different understanding of readiness in terms of front end and bugs. So when you are providing a link or the project to your customer, usually front end issues are quite often, and we usually pay attention to them first, or customers pay attention to them first. So if you are working with something where a front end exists, and if you think that some issues may happen, we usually suggest for you as customers and for the team to have a demonstration of a project on their working environment, just to make first check of how it works. If you're working on the front end of a web application or of a website, it is related to testing on a wide variety of browsers, and very often developers provide a link to a ready project before the real testing happens. So in this case, of course, some front-end issues may happen, or you may see some of them, especially you are using one specific kind of browser and development team is using another one. It doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that I try to say that developers are right in this case. However, you should define when you will get the project for testing, or where should you check it, and when the team should say it is ready. So, do you think the project is ready when all the features are completed, but for instance not tested? Do you think that project is ready when there are no critical bugs, however there might be some non-critical or some small issues? Do you think that a project is ready when non-front-end issues only? So basically there might be some back-end issues or whatever else, but front-end is perfect. Or do you think the project should be named ready when no issues are at the website, everything works fine at front end and the back end? So when you specify this kind of readiness criteria, you should also work on acceptance criteria. That is more about that is more well-known issue, and usually if you work on requirements documentation, you will specify that. But if you work in agile way, or if you use Scrum, I saw one of the questions about Scrum in comments. So of course we work this way sometimes. I don't think it's something good or bad comparing to waterfall or other project management project planning ways. So for some projects it's good, and it depends on the project actually. So here, if you are working with a project and you have your specific requirements of readiness, or you understand that you might have them special, you should define them before project starts, or actually when your team will start completing or actually providing you the end of their result. So when you specify this criteria in this way, you define what are your expectations. And if your team knows what you're expecting for, there are lower chances that you will see any of these issues on the website if you specify them. In case it happens and you've specified your requirements and your team is still missing them, that is another question. But if you are working on specification of your expectations and criteria, the chances that the team won't meet them, they are really lower. And of course, another thing that you should consider here is what is your priority right now. So do you want to have an MVP, so minimum viable product, that is complete quickly? It might not be tested with load testing or with all of the tests or automated testing, but it's done just for your testing purpose, just to check your idea with a real audience. Or you are working on a market where your audience is waiting for 100% project tested well on test servers, and any issue should appear over there. So that is also another thing that you should think of, and where you will take your acceptance requirements and criteria from. Let me check the question that appeared here, so I will take some time in the end, but I would like to take some of the questions related to our current topics right now. So what is the example of change that can happen? So actually, when we are talking about the estimate change, usually it may be a change of a time frame, a change of a budget, and most usually that is a change of how the project will be completed, or how a feature can be completed, that influence on time and estimate, money estimation actually. So sometimes if you are researching something and you think that there is a way to complete or to create some feature, and you understand that during the research you understand that this way this feature cannot be completed, in this case you need to search for other options. So that is what can happen. If you are working on the project that is not a research one, the change can happen when you just get into deeper into the code. For instance, if you're working with a code that was created by somebody else, and you figure out that some part of functionalities is what described in the document but not yet live, is not fully completed. So that is something that is not easy to understand or to see, and you figure it out only in the project development phase. Another thing, another question here is this managing software development can be used in developing business intelligence software? Well, I'm not sure if you are talking about any specific business intelligence software, but it of course depends on the project you have. So if you specify it in more details, I will be able to comment here. Yeah, old saying in software developments, you can pick any two, but none three: done fast, done cheap, and done right. Yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah, that is a thing that we are quite often talking about, but according to my latest conversations with customers, or according to my latest experience, I see that some of us still consider price as one of the top options when we're talking to developers, or we're talking to development groups we want to work with. So fortunately or unfortunately, that is also an important criteria. But what we are trying to explain right now, and what we are trying to explain to our customers who work with us, is that yeah, that price is not the #1 criteria if we are choosing development teams, since the price can change. The situation that was described here, so the estimate is changed, may happen as well. And in some very bad cases, the team provided with a lower estimate just to sign a contract with you, and then they try to charge you more for some additional tasks. That is quite a practice I heard about lately from one of our customers who tried to switch the team, since he was charged quite a lot for the changes. But that is the case, it can also happen. So when you are choosing your development partner or developer, that is also an option to consider, or to check how much it will cost you to add or change something in the future. Of course, you cannot predict the situation that you will be overcharged, but you can ask for some additional estimations, or for some estimations of future tasks and changes if you already know that they may happen. So let's go to the fourth issue we have here. So how often do you meet the situation? Yeah, please use our live chat here, that you understand that your provider or your team didn't really understand the task. That is why it was completed or in a wrong way, or it was not completed, or it was completed partly, or it was completed somehow else but not the way you specified it. So what was your experience with this issue? I will explain you how it works. As psychologists say, when we are in a group, especially if we have a call, or if we are a development group where we have several people, it's quite a shame to say that you don't understand something. Especially if you are a technical person, and if you are like a senior developer or a team lead, or somebody who is well known, proud of his previous experience, and if you have colleagues who are coming to you to ask their stupid questions, how it will look like if you ask somebody that the task is not clear, if you ask more details about that, and if you say that you don't understand that. That is quite a situation that happens very often. So something might be not really clear, but developer or team member is or ashamed to ask, or he thinks that he will figure it out later. Unfortunately, this situation is very very stupid to predict, or every customer is very surprised if this is uncovered later. But you should understand that this is also an option, that is also a case that happens from time to time. What we did before, when we had this issue in our team, we set a rule inside of the team. It was also related to the tasks that were completed or that we were working on. So if you think of a task for more than 30 minutes, then just ask. And the same was about the tasks that we were discussing with the customer. So if you're not 100% sure that the task is clear to you, then just ask. It doesn't mean that you are stupid. That is okay. And we also had this rule with our customers on our calls. So we've just said them that we might ask some stupid things, but please understand that we want to make sure that we understand everything correctly. However, if this rule doesn't exist in your team, or you don't know that, I suggest you to ask your team to explain your project or your requirements in their own words. So after discussion, if you want to make sure that the task or the project was understandable, or they are clear about what they need to do, just ask, how do they understand the task? If you do that, you will just be sure if the task is clear or if there are any other questions, because when you need to explain in your own words, you need to just work on the information provided. You need to explain it, how do you understand it? And if you don't, then you will have questions and you will ask them actually. Most usually this issue, when something was not clear, that is a reason of the first, second and third case that we discussed today. So sometimes it's a reason of missed deadline, because the requirements were not clear, so they were estimated wrongly. That is sometimes an issue that happens before the estimation changed. So the task was not understood or understood wrongly, and that is why the estimation will change. That is also a reason for the previous issue we discussed with you. So the project is not ready or ready partly, since again it was misunderstood. Unfortunately, we are working in the environment where we are all people. So understanding and communication and misunderstanding things, that is something that happens all the time, every day, in every communication we have. And especially when we are working with a technical team. The technical team is very focused on their technical tasks, and sometimes they are not that easy to communicate about some misunderstandings or other issues that they have. Of course, they will work hardly on fixing it, but you as a customer, you want to see clear situation on their end. You want to have a clear picture what's going on over there. So in this situation, you need to learn how to communicate to your team, and they also need to learn how to communicate with you. So the clearness of requirements, of course, again, I remind you that you should ask yourself and ask your team how you can change or make your requirements more clear. And actually, we talked about we've actually worked with one of the customers who work on his requirements all the time. He asks the team about how clear he is. He explains his presentations. He asks if they have any questions, and actually to ask them to explain in their own words. And actually that helps him and the team to be clear about all the issues and provide the estimates that are really realistic and that can be completed in time. Okay, one more comment we have here. I have to explain the task often more than once, on Skype talks as well as in written form. But in general, once I know a developer, it gets a lot easier. Yeah, of course, that is a thing that is also dependent on communication. If you are communicating with somebody for a longer time, it becomes more easy and easy. And of course, we are not asking you to change developers often, but it may happen once. So in this case, you can consider these options just to be more clear and more specific about what you're going to do. So that is the last issue we're going to talk about today. It is not that critical comparing to the first 4. However, that is a thing that usually happens from the side of the teams. And as far as I know, customers not always react on it at all. Sometimes it's annoying, but I think that we should discuss and maybe check why does it happen. So actually that is a situation when your team or your developers are trying to upsell something. So on the example of McDonald's, it is like you are looking for the new feature to be completed, or you would like to have a refactoring of your project. For instance, you use Zend framework, PHP, and you want to have your code refactored. So that is your hamburger or cheeseburger here. And if you're going to talk what upsell will be in this case, your team may ask you if you would like to have like brand new project built not on Zend framework, but maybe on pure PHP or any other framework that is, I don't know, Symfony or whatever else, with some more additional features, enhancements, and so on and so forth. So you have one request and you are suggested to complete it actually, but in another way, like not just refactoring but rebuilding. And of course your refactoring cheeseburger might cost less than this fully rebuilt. So this situation may happen also when you are where you are actually started working with a team and they would like to sell you some more time, some more features, or suggesting something else. So in case you face this situation, just stop for a minute and think, why does it happen? So of course every development team, every development group would like to sell more. So that is their business, that is our business, so that is the situation we are in. So just understand that their goal is really to bring more business, more money to their companies, and they try to work it with current customers, with new customers, so with everybody. So it doesn't mean that they want only something from you. In case you see that it's simply to get more money from your side and the team don't have any recommendation, or they don't have any comments about why do they try to upsell this and why do you need this, you can just postpone this offer. So just tell them that, okay guys, but as for now we should work on the requirements or work on the features that we've set up right now. However, if you're receiving this kind of offer from your development team, just think of it first. It doesn't mean that all the time it's just an upsell just to have more work from you. Sometimes it's really a suggestion that is worth considering. Just compare it with your current offer. Is it worth changing your feature A or your cheeseburger to this another option that might take longer but might bring you more? So how it will help you in the future? Usually if you ask these questions and if you ask developers about this, and if you hear something realistic or something that is worth consideration, you will have something to choose from. So right now we have a project where we have this similar situation, and our customer is choosing between refactoring and rebuilding of something. And actually what we are doing, we are providing two options, two estimations. So how long it will take to refactor the project right now, and how will it cost, how much will it cost, how long it will take to rebuild the project, and how much will it cost. And of course we have benefits and of each of these options. So refactoring will take more, for instance, since the code was written by another provider. Rebuilding will take less time since we are working from scratch, and since we need to move logic from one part of the project to another, and it will be easier to do it from scratch. However, our customer has an option to choose from. So he has two options, two time frames, two budgets, and the goal is completed by any of these ways. So he can choose. We understand, and he understands that all in all, even if we start from refactoring right now, once in several months or in a year, we will come to rebuilding of the platform, but maybe right now it's not the most critical thing that we will face in the nearest months. We won't have that much users that we might have in a year. So right now, refactoring might be an option comparing to rebuilding. So that is a thing that should be considered when you are receiving this kind of offer. So my main suggestion or my main recommendation here is to communicate some things in a different way, or communicate them better, or discuss them deeper with your developers. It doesn't mean that developers are not thinking of your business. It doesn't mean that you won't need to share some of your decisions or reasons you take these decisions with your developers. However, when you start doing this, when you start sharing your way of thoughts, where the way you are thinking of, the way of considering some stuff, it will be a better way for your developers to understand you and to provide you with some better suggestions or with some better offers next time. So we also learn, and developers are also trying to learn how do you work and what is better for you right now or later on. So that is why the most open way that we can handle the project, the most open way you can handle the project with a team, it usually helps you to build better communication with developers sooner than later. And of course it is better for you, just because for you and for them the goal of the project is always to have it live, to have it successfully running. You can just understand that developers are also looking for project success. They are not just coding for time from 10 to 6 sitting in the office. When the project is successfully running, of course they are more happy than if they just coded some part of the code that is lying somewhere in the package, or that is not really running or not doing something. So basically that was the main part of the information I wanted to share with you. So again, I think that I didn't tell you a lot of new things. I was trying to share that way that we are handling these issues with our development teams. Some of these practices are widely used by project managers in our development teams that we work with. Again, that is more related about small and medium-sized projects, so we are not going to talk about the large enterprises right now. And of course, in this case, our personalities and our personal communications matter more, since we are usually working with product or project owners and company owners directly. So right now, I'm open to your questions. Please use the chat again if you have anything else. I think that I responded to all the questions that you had before. Even if you will have a question after our event, I have my email here, so feel free to contact me. I will be happy to talk to you. We are always open for communications and any suggestions that we might share with you. And again, we have a few minutes right now to answer your questions and discuss if you have anything else here. So if I go back to one of the questions that was related to Scrum and Agile practices, I would also share one short comment here. So Agile and Scrum became quite popular for some time, and we have lots of conferences here in Ukraine, internationally handled, and we have lots of people who just completed certifications. They are certified product owners, Scrum Masters, and who are following these practices. And again, that is the thing that might help your project, but it doesn't mean that it is a saint grail where you need to take all the practices of agile like Kanban or fully set up Scrum in your team without just checking if it really helps you. So we will use here internally some practices of Kanban with Kanban boards. Our teams, we have a team who actually took daily stand-up meetings to their practice, and actually they work with this kind of meetings for several years already. And they have also Kanban boards, but they are just offline boards on the wall with the stickers and markers and paper. That is quite a fun thing to do, especially if they work with customers and customers are not located here and come to them for a visit and they have planning or morning meeting together. Also sometimes we have teams who work with planning poker cards, or mainly our teams just took the demonstrations and the practices of starting each iteration and finishing it with discussion of what was done good, what was done bad, with retrospective and this stuff. What else I would like to share with you after this webinar? So when we were again in Berlin in our event, I was asked about these requirements form and how it is better to share them, and actually we shared one of our materials about the prototyping tools that can be used. So if you have a mobile application or if you're working on Planning One, I'm sure that we will be able to share with you a few materials about these prototyping tools that we reviewed for some time ago, and actually we found them quite important or just quite easy to use right now. And even if you have if you want to have like a free tool, there are free options or just not that costly options to start from. And actually even on our practice, if we are having wireframes of the project, we can just create them during the call in 15 minutes, so it's quite an easy thing that you can do yourself. Of course, we are not going to talk about low-level development where there is no interface at all and you can't describe anything with the graphics. However, if you have an interface, that is a thing. What else we are going to share with you is after the webinar, we will share feedback form. So we will kindly ask you to provide feedback. We are planning to have another webinar later, and we are also looking for other topics that are interesting for you. So feel free to share your thoughts and suggestions or questions that you have, as well as topics that you are interested in. And usually we are having not only this kind of webinars, we might have sessions with cases discussion or more practical way of communication. So we would be glad for the feedback for our today's event, as well as ideas and suggestions for the future ones, if you have anything else to suggest or to say. Okay, so we are in time, and I think that we don't have any other questions right now. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and we will get back to you with a feedback form with some more ideas and suggestions about prototyping tools, and with more questions to you about the next topic of our event. So then I think that we are done for today. I'm very glad that you were here with us, and it was really nice to have you here at our webinar. So hope to see you again next time at our next events, or at our website, or anyhow else. If you will be in Ukraine, just feel free to visit us and meet us in person. So thanks a lot for your attention. I wish all of you a nice day or evening, depending on where you are, and hope to see you again. Bye bye.